The success of the G20 summit in New Delhi extends to massive leaps forward in the India-Saudi Arabia bilateral relationship. In the state visit of Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, as he's called, had landed for a state visit in India. Interestingly, MBS was the only leader to be received by a union minister. It was Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw. We will tell you why that is important in just a bit. Let's first look at the relevance of this one-day state visit. New Delhi and Riyadh have traditionally enjoyed cordial relations. The two nations have had centuries-old economic and socio-cultural ties. And this visit to New Delhi was an extension of that. MBS received a ceremonial reception. After which both countries signed 8 agreements in all. 2 of them cater to energy and digitization. The two sides have also decided to cooperate between India's Central Vigilance Commission and the Saudi Anti-Corruption. Then there was an agreement between the two investment entities, that is Invest India on the Indian side and the Ministry of Investment on the Saudi side. There was another agreement between banks, one with the Exim banks and another between the Small and Medium Enterprises Bank. An agreement on desalination has also been signed. This is the process by which the dissolved mineral salts in water are removed. This is an area where Saudi Arabia has been heavily investing. Defense cooperation in the manufacturing sector saw special mention in the agreement. And the last agreement was signed between the National Archives of the two countries.
This forum is an important and valuable step between our two countries to help us understand and also further grow the strong business, investments and trade opportunities between Saudi Arabia and India.
बदलते समय की जरूरतों के अनुसार हम हमारे संबंधों में नए और आधुनिक आयाम जोड़ रहे हैं। भारत के लिए सऊदी अरब हमारे सबसे महत्वपूर्ण स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनर में से एक है।
One of the most important strategic partners, this is how India sees Saudi Arabia. The two leaders signed 47 memorandums of understanding. Both countries' economies are growing, and one of the focus areas has been trade and connectivity. And this brings us to the point we started with, the crucial transcontinental corridor, the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, or the IMEC. It is being seen as an ode to the ancient spice route, but it is also a vision of how future trade will look like. The project includes India, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, EU member countries France, Italy, Germany, and the United States. The corridor will include a rail link, an electricity cable, a hydrogen pipeline, as well as a high-speed data cable. As ambitious as it sounds, it is also being seen as a high point in India-Saudi relations. And to discuss this and a lot more, I'm now being joined by Suresh Kumar Goyal from New Delhi. He's a former Indian diplomat. Ambassador, welcome to WION World is One.
Good evening.
Right. Help us understand the significance of this strategic council formed between India and Saudi Arabia as Prime Minister Modi sat down with MBS.
2 or 3 things. It's rather important, it's very, very important that Prime Minister Modi has begun to understand the importance between Saudi Arabia and India. He recognizes that the relationship in the Middle East is not unidimensional or dependent upon one country, but there is in a granular picture, there are so many differences, so many variations that you have to basically take into account what Saudi Arabia is, what Emirates is, what Qatar is. This is a clear recognition of the importance of Saudi Arabia. And number 2, the fact that Saudi Arabia plays an important role in connection between India and Europe and India and the world, both through the connectivity projects and through the trade lines. So in that sense, I would say that it's a great idea to first of all go through a connectivity, a multiple pronged connectivity through both electronics, internet, cyber, trade, physical connectivity, etc., and everything. I do hope that in the complex strategic dynamics of Middle East, this kind of a connectivity project will help in developing the smooth relations between India and not just Saudi Arabia, but the Middle East all by itself.
Right. Ambassador,
Yes.
going beyond the diplomatic ties and the strategic ties that have been formed between India and Saudi, let's talk about the investment. Now, as a previous guest pointed out, this is investment. It's not actual money flowing into the country. So what can India do to ensure that there is a plan in place and that money actually reaches where it's supposed to?
I fail to understand basically when you say there is actually investment and not the money. How does the investment come? The investment can flow only either through the financial resources or through technology, equipment, etc., etc. Now, coming from Saudi Arabia, I can think that the investment can come only through really the financial resources. Of course, it has to be returned in one way or the other. It has to generate resources which are to be repatriated. But eventually, it is a bond which actually brings the two countries together. Look at China and the USA.
Right.
If today the USA is not able to extricate from China, it's basically because too much has been invested in China, and to get out from there will require getting all that investment out, and they can't do it. They are not able to do it, and therefore I think having more investment from Saudi Arabia into India or globally even in a project like this is very useful.
Absolutely, Ambassador. Let's talk about the big announcement that was made at India's very successful G20 summit. That is the rail project that was announced. Help us understand the significance of the same, and will it be a healthy alternative to China's BRI and China's debt trap diplomacy?
To begin with, I think it's a beautiful project. I really wonder why somebody didn't think of it before. And I really wonder why we didn't work on that before, because nothing can really work on building up the links between India and Middle East better than this kind of a multi-modular project. Think of the history. India was connected to Middle East even from the beginning, not through anything else but trade. Dhaps used to go from Gujarat ports to Dubai, and from Dubai on to the desert in Saudi Arabia and to the Middle East. The trade has been the most important link between India and these countries. And therefore, I really wonder why we didn't think of it before. Number two, Europe, which is the most connecting region between India and Europe.
Right.
In terms of the geography. Therefore, I would say really we should have done it much earlier. Maybe the time was not right, maybe they were not ready, maybe we were not ready. But I think, first of all, from the point of view of India, Saudi Arabia, Indo-European strategic links, it's very useful. Coming to China, China may want to basically think of it as a counter to China's BRI. It may be, it may not be. But the fact is that China's BRI has proved to be a disaster.
Absolutely.
China's BRI has only led to debt trap. Look at Sri Lanka, look at Pakistan. And they're both at our border. They're both our neighboring countries. And what has happened in terms of infrastructure is basically economic colonization. And therefore, if China feels threatened, good for it. But the fact is that beyond a challenge to what China looks at it, it is useful for building long-term, durable, stable, strategic links between India and the Middle East as well as Europe.
Ambassador, thank you so much for all those insights, and thanks for joining us on WION World is One. WION World is One is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.